So in today's video, I'm going to explore a tough but I think important truth about relying solely on a 401k and this idea that can leave many Americans financially vulnerable in retirement. I've spent years working with individuals and couples, investors who did all the right things, saved diligently, followed traditional advice, maximized their 401k, and trusted that just their retirement plan alone, their 401k, would be enough to really carry them through retirement. But time and time again, what we've seen is that that strategy can really come apart if we don't do a little bit deeper, more comprehensive planning, sometimes leading to lifestyle compromises they never anticipated and certainly didn't want. Now, I'm not here to criticize 401ks. They're a helpful tool. We love them. We help clients set them up. But we want to highlight the structural limitations of relying on just 401ks or 403bs alone. We'll break down the math, the mechanics, and even some mindset shifts that can help you to create a more secure and flexible retirement strategy. So let's get right into it. Now, let's start by talking about 401k contribution limits. Let's consider this the basics. How much can you actually put into a 401k? Well, it depends on which year you're watching this, but typically it's between $23,000 and $24,000 a year that you can contribute for most Americans, or a little bit higher, up to $31,000 right now, if you're a little bit older. Now, while that number may sound like a solid number, it's often not enough, especially when you factor in rising costs like inflation and even potentially longer retirements. And many folks haven't been maxing out their 401ks as long as they've been eligible. So total contributions from all sources cap out around $70,000, depending on the time that you're watching this. But here's another catch. You can't contribute more than 100% of your income. So high earners and business owners sometimes hit caps that really don't align with their retirement needs, especially if they've started saving later. And I think these limits were never really designed to carry someone through 30, 35, 40 years of retirement. And they really haven't kept pace with inflation, rising healthcare costs, housing, or some other potential longevity challenges. Now let's talk about the tax structure challenges. Beyond just contribution limits, the tax structure of 401ks can potentially create problems that many Americans don't fully understand or haven't been helped to think through, sometimes until it's too late to be effective. So let's talk taxes. If you've watched our videos, you know that I love to talk about taxes. This is an area, and the reason is because this is an area where we have really a lot of influence and control over the outcomes. As a reminder, 401k is a tax-deferred vehicle, typically not tax-free. That means every dollar that you withdraw in retirement is taxed as ordinary income, which is taxed at your highest marginal bracket. Now, depending on your tax bracket, that could mean keeping only, 40 to 88 cents of every dollar. Maybe you have $1 million in your 401k, but it's really not $1 million to spend. Why? You've got to pay taxes. So once you factor in future tax rates, especially if they rise, which they might, you're likely to end up with far less than potentially you expected. Required minimum distributions also force you to take money out, maybe when you don't need it, which can push you over time into a higher tax bracket. This would be later on in retirement, but maybe that's when, like many of our clients, you are hoping just to coast and live off of your other assets. Now, we also need to talk about fees. Now, many 401ks have low fees, but all 401ks come with embedded costs, and often these are hard to spot. So we could be talking about trustee fees, record-keeping fees. Really, the big one is mutual fund expense ratios. In some cases, I've seen well over 1% in many different funds in a lineup, and that can really add up. Now, don't get me wrong. Some 401ks, they really do have great options, and some even have a self-directed brokerage window, which can be a great opportunity to really diversify into many more options than are in the normal plan lineup. But many 401ks that we review are really, really limited, even with big, great companies. And so over time, those fees can really reduce your retirement nest egg, sometimes by tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars over your saving and investing years. And many investors don't even realize the impact until it's potentially too late to adjust. Now, let's talk also about liquidity. 401ks can be great plans, but they're not quite as liquid as just a regular brokerage account. So the money in your 401k, it's earmarked for retirement. That's what it's meant for. With a few exceptions, in some cases, withdrawals before 59 and a half, typically they incur a 10% penalty, which is added on top of your ordinary income. So here can be the catch. If you need liquidity, maybe it's for an emergency, with some exceptions, early retirement, or maybe just an opportunity, and your money is all in that one bucket, it may not be accessible in either a timely or efficient manner. And this really is the definition of what it means to have all of your eggs in one basket. So this lack of liquidity can be a challenge, especially during times of maybe market volatility, if also at those times you have unexpected expenses or maybe even a job loss. Now, it's true, loans can be an option, but they're limited and they often come with some strings attached. And so you need to really understand your plan's specifics. These are some of the real challenges of 401ks, but really this is all about why we advocate for planning beyond just the 401k, the 403b, or even the 457. Okay. We want to be diversified not only in our investments, but also in our tax buckets. So let's talk a little bit about retirement income and what we believe is the way to build a more comprehensive plan. So let's say that you want $100,000 a year in retirement and you're using a traditional, maybe 5% withdrawal rate. That's pretty simple math, right? You need about $2 million saved. If you're in the 25% tax bracket, you need about $2.5 million saved just to net $100,000. Now, of course, that doesn't account for Social Security or other income sources or investments, but that really is sort of the point. It illustrates how even disciplined savers can potentially fall short if they're relying solely on a 401k to create the backbone of their income in retirement. Now, as I said, of course, you're going to have Social Security, but think about the flexibility, potentially challenges here. Maybe you've got IRAs, Roth IRAs, brokerage accounts. Huge fan of brokerage accounts. Really love those as a retirement savings vehicle. But Social Security really is the backbone or the plumb line for most retirees' income plan. And you may have business income or you may consult part-time. But relying just on your 401k or IRA withdrawals can be inflexible from a tax perspective. If all of your income is taxable and taxes rise, there's not a guarantee that that's going to happen, but between you and I think that's not unlikely. The amount that you need to withdraw can really snowball over time. And frankly, Roth conversions can get tricky here too. Where do you get the money to pay the taxes if all you have is retirement savings in a traditional 401k or IRA? Now, it can be done, but it may not be the most optimal strategy. This is why I'm a huge fan of having retirement dollars in non-qualified accounts, Roth IRAs, and traditional IRAs. We want diversification in our income sources, not just our investments. We call this a tax allocation. We want to be thinking about that as well. So how do we build a strong, real retirement plan? Well, we want to build one that's focused on the numbers, not just about saving in a 401k and maxing that out and hoping that everything works really well. In our view, building a real retirement plan is figuring out how to generate income. Now, understanding the tax implications of that income is also a crucially important piece. We want to be able to build flexibility in so that you're not locked into just a single strategy, only having one bucket to pull money from. Now, the other thing that really goes into a comprehensive plan is managing risks like healthcare. How are we going to pay for long-term care? What if taxes go up? Not just investment risks and volatility. Those are important, but that's not everything. So maximizing your 401k can be smart. It can be a great plan. But depending on your overall retirement asset mix, you might benefit from funding a Roth or a brokerage account instead if you've hit a certain level of savings. And we need to coordinate your 401k or IRA withdrawals with your Social Security claiming because of this issue of provisional income. Now, provisional income, if you've not heard, that's what determines how much of your Social Security is actually going to be taxable. Now, if all your retirement income comes from your 401k, you may end up paying more than you think in taxes and Medicare premiums and surcharges. So all of this to say, there's a lot of nuance to retirement planning today, and we don't want to miss anything. This is worth measuring twice before you get there. So now that you understand why a 401k only savings strategy might fall short, I want to encourage you, take action. Don't just leave with some good information. Build a complete strategy, one that you understand in plain English, one with a clear roadmap that gives you an order of operations. How are you going to generate income? How are you going to manage taxes, cover healthcare, and maybe even potentially plan for long-term care costs? So if you're watching this and you want help designing a plan that includes not just asset allocation and asset location, but a full retirement income strategy that reflects not just best practices, but your goals, click the link below. Fill out a quick 5-minute questionnaire. That'll unlock a link to my calendar directly. Now, here's what'll happen. Once you schedule that quick 30-minute conversation, we'll spend that time seeing if we're a good fit to work together. I want to get to know your goals, your aspirations more, and you'll learn just a little bit about our process. We'll share a few ideas. It's not a sales pitch. It's just getting to know whether or not we're the right professionals to help you get to and through retirement. Thanks for watching. Click the link below, and I look forward to chatting with you soon.